people, and welcome back to part 35 of the Noobs Guide to City Skylines. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thanks so much for all the love and support over our beach build last episode. Had a ton of fun putting this together, and lots of nice ideas to be had with plazas and promenades, isn't there? I hope you're all enjoying the expansion now we've had it for a couple of weeks. And in today's episode of Noob Yoke, unfortunately for the console players that are following this series, your journey in Noob Yoke does end here. We have filled our 9 tiles now with various different designs, interchanges, road network tutorials. There's a ton in this series, so for those on the console, it's over for you now. I'm really sorry to say. This is a good chance to go and start a new city. Go and put into practice everything you've learned from this series if indeed you are a beginner. And start again on a new map. Maybe go try out one of the ones from the expansion. And indeed, all the builds going forward in this series will remain vanilla. You will still be able to follow them and take inspiration, but if indeed you are building along, then these 9 tiles are full. This is the end game for you. But for those on the PC, there is a link down in the description below to a mod called Big City, which will give you 25 tiles. This is fantastic. So we'll open this up. So we're not going to go full 81 tiles here because I don't really want Noob Yoke to be that big. So we're just going to grab all of these here, every single one of them. Pretty expensive, but we'll be alright, the money will come back. And now it gives us access to a whole bunch of the map that we haven't had access to before. It doesn't take us quite up to the 81 tile boundaries, but to be honest, out here we get map fog, and we don't really need to build that far out. So we're going to go for 25 tiles for that reason. And there's one over here as well. We've got another tile boundary, and then it's all out here for us to explore. And I can finally terraform the airport. This has been doing my head in for months. I can finally terraform that now. So what I'd like this episode to function is, I'm not really going to do sort of a major sort of zoned build, if you like. We are going to be doing a big network sort of rework and design session. So we're going to rip out this horrendous clover leaf that's been placed in. It's awful. Such a bad interchange. So we're going to redo this one. It's not too bad at the minute because it's only carrying intercity traffic. But once there's builds down this side of the shoreline and people use it to get around the city. So with that in mind, we're going to rebuild this into a vanilla Windmill stack interchange. It's a really simple design. Shout out to HK for the design. There'll be a link down to his channel below. And then I also want to identify spots where we can expand. Where can our arterial and collector systems come out? There's quite a clear opportunity out of this roundabout to make a new service interchange. Likewise over here. We can extend this road to come out through the suburb. These can all extend out and whatnot, and the country road can extend. All these collector frames can come out now. So it's really going to be a session in fixing the networks and preparing them. And then also we're going to work this as well, we're going to get rid of this. There's some very, very nasty train intersections on Diamond Coast outside of the 9 tile boundaries. So we're going to talk about how we can fix this, make it more efficient and make it look good as well, which is always at the forefront of our mind when we play this game. So let's talk about how we can repair and improve the horrific vanilla connections in City Skylines. So let's start by building a windmill stack interchange. So this is a vanilla cloverleaf. They're infamously sort of not efficient. Yumbo actually has some very good videos on sort of fixing the cloverleaf if you're playing with some of the mods like Move It, Intersection Marking Tool, Node Controller, etc. Of course, for our console friends and those that do enjoy the pure vanilla experience, that isn't really an option for us. So if you do have one of these horrendous vanilla cloverleafs in your map, rip it out, okay, and give yourself plenty of room. More room than you need as well is always useful for these things. There we go, let's just keep tearing all this back. And then we want to go ahead and grab a height first of all, so let's come into our level terrain tools, and let's just go for this layer that this one's sat on, and then just push it all out. There we go. Now I've got a nice big flat landmass to work with. And don't worry about, disrespecting the topography. You can always come back and re-terraform around it once you know how you want it to sit and how you want it to look. That can all come at a later date. So I want to start by grabbing a couple of 3-lane highway roads, and this is just really going to be establishing exactly where the interchange is going to sit. So I'm going to come off the road guideline just because I want to align it manually. There we go. And then we'll come back onto road guideline. Then we're just going to draw up 2 big straight pieces. This is going to be the bottom layer or the bottom level of your interchange, and then bring it back in with that one as well. So once you have your two parallel highways in, which of course are the bottom level of your interchange, we're going to start bringing in some dirt road frames because these are going to allow us to just help establish our position a little bit more once we're setting up the frames for snapping. So we're going to come down here, so we're going to go to the sort of two snap nodes along here, if you like, with the interchange sort of frames. Then we're going to draw these dirt roads out to the side. I'm just going to go for 20 for right now. And then we just want to upgrade those sections into the middle. And you're looking for 4 squares in the middle of these upgraded dirt roads, okay? So 2 on each side, got 4 squares in the middle. And then there's 4 all around it, or sort of 2 deep, if you like, I guess is the way to describe that, isn't it? Cool. And just upgrade those, and this is going to give us a nice little box to play with on this side. Then what we want to do is find a measurement of 7 units from this central road, which was your bottom layer. So I'm just going to come out here, and we know that 7 will appear once we see that second blue marker. That's 5, so that would be 6, and then that would be 7. And we can see it's a cost of 140 in dirt road frames, which is the easiest way to measure it without precision engineering. Okay, then we can draw that up, and then we can break this. And then we want to create a box of 7 units around the entire thing. So 140, 140, and then across. And then 140, 140, and across. And then one more time, 140, and then 140. And that gives you a perfect square, okay, perfectly symmetrical in this design. And then you want to delete all of the internal roads. You can also snap off the outer frames that you drew from the base layer in this direction here as well. Cool, and then probably a little bit more breathing room over here too. This gives us something that looks a little bit like this. So now we're going to come into our highway roads, and we're going to grab our main 3-lane highways. We're going to change our elevation step down to its lowest point. And then we want to draw in the sort of bottom layer of the highway again, alright? So we're just going to do this by snapping into the road guidelines, which we know feed into those highway frames that we drew in. And then we just want to stretch them up within the middle. Just like that, okay? We're going to do exactly the same thing now for the roads above it. We're going to come up by 3 steps. Then we're going to draw them across so it fills the frame, snapping to those road guidelines that we drew out off the edge of the box. That's going to give you an interchange sort of layer that looks like that. Okay, just 2 crisscrossing perpendicular roads. Then we're going to come into our highway slip ramps. The highway ramps is just the 1-lane ones. And then from the edge of your road here, you're going to come back down to earth. And then with your freeform tool selected, you want to hit the road guideline on its first snap point. And then you're just going to hook that into the middle node that is directly between the 2 bridges. You're going to do this on both sides for the bottom layer of the interchange. So once you have those bottom frames in, you're going to have something that looks a little bit like this. I'm going to repeat that same process again now, but for the top tier highways. So we're going to come up by 3, grab the highway roads, come onto your freeform tool, and then we're going to curve them into the middle sections this time of the top layers. Repeat the same process for the other side. And then that'll give you something that looks a little bit like that right now. So those dirt road frames are helping us snap into the grid and the guideline and keep everyone nice and symmetrical, which is always appreciated with your highway interchanges. So once you've got that configuration, you can then delete the dirt road box around it. We don't need those grid snappings anymore now. And this is what you will be left with. Come back into your highway roads. We're going to come onto a straight road tool. And now we just want to bring the top elevation bridges down back to earth, which of course is a distance of 12 units or a cost of 2,180. Repeat that on all 4 sides. So now you've sorted out your top layer, they have a way up and down. You can also do this with a layer of height as well if you wanted to, exactly like we did with the vanilla stack interchange over here. You remember, again, if you haven't seen this episode, it's in the playlist. You know, we use the terraforming in order to allow the road to flow rather than doing it as a bridge back down to earth. You can do this same process again if you want. It's kind of personal preference, doesn't really make a difference to traffic flow. Depends on your terrain and how comfortable you are with terraforming. Everyone will have a different sort of taste for it. Okay, we can delete these frames now as well. Now we know where we're sat with the highway. And then with these ones here, we also want to draw out by another 20 in all directions. Again, which is those 2 blue markers. So now you have this configuration with your highway network. We're going to come into the highway ramp. We're going to grab the curve tool. Then we're going to snap to the guideline of the bottom road here. We're going to bring the curve right up into this top corner, so just past the snap node where it would join the slip road if you connected it. And then we're going to curve here, and then we're looking to hit a distance of 1530. You can go to 1590 if you want. That's going to give you a really nice smooth slip ramp. Okay, you can just amend these highways now to come back down to that same snap point. We'll have it on there. Wonderful. And then exactly the same process now on this side to the snap point here. We're going to bring it right up, and we're going to have it curve. Again, we can do snap point of 1590 there. And exactly the same process now on all the other sides. Big sweeping curves, and then you can hit that 1590 cost. Just want to amend where the roads join up so everyone's nice and parallel with each other. And then we can do this again over on this side. You go up to that top corner and have it sweeping at 1590. Then everyone's going to be tremendously happy. We're left with something that looks a little bit like that. Now is a good time to go ahead and configure your road directions just so it's a little bit less confusing for the next stage. So just go ahead and flip everyone round for whatever traffic flow that you're on, whether it's right or left hand traffic. Same over here as well, flip that one around for me. Cool, so now the only dead end connections are the ones that are left with dead ends, of course. Okay, there's no sort of back channeling with the one-way system. Tremendous. Now let's come into our freeform tool again, and then for this time we're going to come down onto the slip roads here. We're going to grab this node at this point. We're going to come up by a single elevation step, and then we're going to curve this back into the road at a distance of 540. Change the direction here as well if you like at this point. Then we're going to carry on this freeform tool, snapping into the guideline, and every time we snap into it, we want to hit page up, so we come up an elevation step, okay? Just by using the freeform tool and snapping to the guidelines, your elevation ramp is going to follow the same curvature as the one on the ground. So once you have this elevated ramp section in, we're going to come ahead and grab our highway ramp, and then we're going to extend this top slip lane that's connected into the bridges. We're going to bring this out by a distance of 760, which will allow it to connect into these road guideline snap points. And you can get your curve road tool again, or freeform tool, sorry, and then you can eyeball this one pretty easily. You just want to get it so it's nice and central within the road guideline snaps there within the middle. Then come back to your curve road tool, re-extend it to meet the guideline of the bridge, and then you can hook that back in. Of course, change your directions, and then that's going to give you a really nice symmetrical happy flow as it comes over to join this top lane up here. So you'll see how that same process works here, okay? It's all nice and happy, everyone's going to be enjoying themselves. Tremendous. So now with the bottom tier slip lanes, it's the same process but inverted. So rather than being elevated here, we want to come out by a distance of 12 units and 3 elevation points, so that'd be 1, 2, and 3. Then to make sure you're at the full distance, you'll see the bridge kind of snap back if you go too far. So it's a distance of 740 in cost. Okay, so get that established, same on the other side as well. And then you want to repeat that exact same process. So we're going to come back down to earth, we're going to come up by an elevation point, and we're going to curve it back into the highway at a cost of 540. Change the direction, back to your freeform tool, and then same process. Hit the guidelines with the freeform tool every time, up by the elevation point that you need. Now because we have a road guideline snap point in the middle of the highway now, you won't need to eyeball your freeform curve for the middle. It will just sort of happily snap into it and get your curve, hit the guideline, and then bring it in. Of course, don't forget to change your configuration as well. And then we'll do the last one together. So super simple, easy vanilla interchange design to put together. Again, a big shout out to HK Skylines. Please go show him some support for this design. His channel is linked down below. And same thing again, we just want to hit those guidelines together. So we hit 3 points, bring this one out again on its elevation step at a cost of 740. Grab the freeform, come in and hit the guideline in the middle of the highway, which is now provided by these two nodes in the middle. And then get your curve road tool, connect it in. There you go. And then just do one final check now to make sure that all of your one-way networks are facing the way that they are indeed supposed to. But otherwise, that will give you a vanilla Windmill stack interchange. A lot more aesthetically appealing and efficient than the horrendous vanilla cloverleafs. I hope you all agree. So I'll go ahead and get this hooked in, and then we can have a look at the traffic flow around it. And now we can observe the flow of the Windmill stack. Very satisfying to watch, and a really fun interchange to put together as well. Yeah, cool. I'm really happy with it. Very nice, fits Noobia wonderfully. So yeah, now you can come through if you want to and start doing some lane maths. You can, every time you come off here, 2 lanes would be appropriate here. So we get the dedicated turning lanes as they come into these sections. So these first sections of one-way road can indeed be upgraded to 2-lane if you want. And then you can also downgrade, the bottom section into 2-lane. If you're sort of struggling with lane maths, this can be really helpful to do. Especially with sort of traffic and with playing without Traffic Manager. Is also sort of, this is a nice little workaround for it. There we go, so all this section across the middle can be 2-lane if you want. You just see now as they come in, they get that dedicated turning lane to come off, and the 2 lanes carry on going straight ahead. Same here again as well, we can have that one come up as 2-lane if you want to. We've just got the new bus-only roads. You can consider maybe upgrading this central one maybe into the bus lanes with sound barriers. It's going to give you a slightly different aesthetic. Okay, the intercity buses will use the bus-only roads on the highways. It doesn't matter if you don't have bus routes coming down. But you can be a little bit more creative with it, okay? You can change up the palettes. Let's have this all as bus highway if we wanted to. Right, with or without sound barriers, personal preference. You don't need the sound barriers, of course. There's no residential around here, but it's a nice little aesthetic, and it'll save you some nodes in the detailing as well. Okay, well there you go. So I hope you found that useful. It's ripped out the awful vanilla cloverleaf. So we can move on now and have a look at something else, and we'll come back and detail in this during our detailing time-lapse. Let's have a little chat about Colossal Orders rail intersections, shall we? This is not good. So this is in the Noobs Guide series. This is not my build, clearly. This is how the vanilla train intersections come in the map. Not good. Not good. And this looks disgusting as well, right? Massively unrealistic for a train. And just horrendous. So... not good. Let's rip it out. Okay, so all of it can go. And I also notice over here that I do indeed actually have an opportunity to expand the arterial network out. So I'm going to relocate my med clinic somewhere. Just stick it there for right now. And then let's upgrade the road here. So we will lose a little bit of housing, but don't worry about it. I've hoped that you've come to be a little more comfortable ripping out your infrastructure as you've been sort of following the Noobs Guide. It really doesn't make that much of a difference. You only end up losing a little bit of zoning, so it's okay. Cool, so this is definitely going to be a service interchange point, okay? This is a great way to get on and off the highway, especially for the oil refinery that's over here too. So super handy for that. And then we can also rework these really tight rail network connections now. Cool. So there is a video on the channel for 3 simple and easy modular service interchange designs. I'm going to use one of these for this particular area. But we'll still talk through it together, but I will leave that video linked at the end of the video if indeed you do want to see it. So I'm going to use the road guideline snapway here across the highway so I can see exactly where the rail flows from. And then again, like the interchange, we're going to come up by 3 elevation points. That's going to be fairly sensible for me, I think. And then what I want to do is actually a little bit of terrain elevation. So we're going to come on to shift terrain. And now I just want to bring up a landmass that's roughly about the height of the bridge. That seems to be sensible for me. We're going to right click the top with level terrain, and then we can push all of this out now and delete the rail frame that we've drawn in. Tremendous. Let's just draw out a big bulk of landmass. So this is something we enjoyed doing quite a lot in Palaven. And was doing embanked railways. They look a lot nicer. Also gives you extra layers of height within the build as well, which is always appreciated. Okay, and then we'll also bring that landmass up on this side as well, but we'll go for a slightly bigger one. Cool. Nice, so that's going to frame our highway a little bit. And now we can come back into the rail line now. So we can just bring this one up so that road guideline appears a little bit sooner for us. There we go. Now we just want to come up to the highway. I'm going to move away a little bit from it. Then I'm going to do 2 steps of elevation with the bridge. Then I just want this to come straight across the middle. Then we can bring this back down to earth in a pretty sensible fashion. Probably go for about there, it's going to be okay. Then if you want symmetry, just redraw that and find out how long it was. It was a distance of 1460 for me. So I can repeat that over this side again as well. I've got much smoother gradients. We can delete this line now that holds the road guard line frame for us. We'll come into our slope terrain. We want to grab that top height. And then from this start of the rail now, we just want to slope up. So we get this nice smooth run. And then we can just bring this straight up and in. Which gives us a much more sensible ascent up to the rail line. And then we can bring this one down here now as well. Cool. So this is horrendous. If you're going to be making sort of rail switches like this, where trains are, moving onto different lines, you want to make sure that these sections here, where sort of the 2 different lines meet and interchange with one another, you want to make sure that they're the length of at least 1 full train. Otherwise, they're going to start getting stuck. So it's basically just a good idea to rip all these out and then we'll redo it ourselves. Okay. So we'll have a nice big straight section here. We can start to curve this rail line off now so it meets back up with its counterpart over this side. And we'll just get some nice big swooping curves here since we've got the room for it. That's going to be nice and happy. And then to get this one hooked in, let's just go ahead and draw in another parallel rail line here. Don't forget what we did as well with our intercity connections in the center of the city. Feel free to start giving a little bit more importance to your rail networks now. Maybe break them down into sort of 2 separate one-way roads or one-way tracks. Feel free to bring in these content creator bridges if you want a little bit more sort of layers of depth and stuff. You could absolutely do this same process that we're doing over here and have it as 2 separate one-way tracks. So don't forget all these ideas and little tips and tricks that we picked up as New Yorkers Graham. They all still apply as you carry on building, even into new cities as well. Cool, so that's a nice little 600 connection. We can have that back into there. And then let's go ahead and grab that road guard line there with a freeform tool. That's going to be nice and happy, isn't it? And then we can do that same process again over here now. Let's draw in a little parallel network. Okay, and then let's keep this going probably up until about that guideline. And then we can just find a snap point to bend back into it. Have that one come over there. And then this one can now come over this side as well. Okay. So much more, again, aesthetically pleasing rail intersections, and a lot. This is probably too wide, to be fair. It's really sort of hammering home the point of leaving those connections where they join other tracks to be more than the length of 1 train is what you want. Okay, and don't forget what we talked about as well. Don't mix intercity and internal train lines together. It's a recipe for train traffic. It's best just to avoid it altogether. So we sorted out one of the rail connections. Fairly happy with that. Of course, it wants detailing, but now let's have a look at the service interchange. So for this particular service interchange design, we're going to use one of my own configurations. This was first formed in Palaven, and it still works really nicely. It might have been a little bit of early egg building, but it was a nice discovery early on, if you like. It still works. So we just want to push back a little bit of the layers here where we've done the bridge. Again, we'll re-terraform it in once we have the rest of our networks in. We're going to start this by drawing in a highway ramp parallel with the highway. We'll have it up to about there for right now. And then the same thing again on the other side. Let's go for this one here this time. You want to grab your collector or arterial road, and you just want to feed this on an angle snap straight into the slip road. You want to do the same thing over here again as well. You can just draw straight across to find the appropriate node if you want to, and then we can have this one come out this side. Now let's bring this one up, and then we really just want to snap onto an angle again here. And you want to find a happy point to come back in. 360 seems to work fine here for me. It's 330 on that side. I guess it's just a tile out, but you can't really tell in the grand scheme of things. And then again, repeat that same process further down the highway. We'll go for measurements of 360 since that's what it seems happier snapping into, or 300 in that case, I guess. I've got something that looks a little bit like that. So once we have this connected up here, we have the arterial collector system hooked into the highway slip ramp. We want to come out with an industrial road. It doesn't have to be industrial road, but it looks a little bit more appropriate for the service interchange. we're going to bring it up by 5 and then up by a single elevation. Then I'm going to do another little 5 curve. Okay, and then up by 2 more points, something like that. And then you want to draw this straight across the highway. So you have something that resembles that kind of general pattern. Back into your highway roads, going to grab another slip ramp. And then from here, you really want to draw in a connection onto the bridge. You can do this in a couple of ways. You can draw the bridge connection first. You bring it down a couple of steps. Find a place to bring it into the highway slip road. So I've got a connection into the bridge this side. This is going to allow people to get over to this side of the highway. So now we just want to remeasure everything on this side. So we know we came up by 320. We'll do that again this side. And then just remeasure the curves. We know it was 5. And find that 5 marker. There we go. Come down by 2 steps. Then we can bring this back into the road frame. This is the basic premise for the service interchange. It's a little bit garish. It's something unique, I think, but it does work. And then it also, you can carry on using the ones we've used elsewhere as well if you want to use this one. You know, this is still working absolutely fine up to 80k population if you want to do another dumbbell. But like I've said, I will leave that video of mine linked down below to the 3 simple and easy vanilla service interchange designs. Okay? But you just sort of get a general impression for how it works. It really kind of splits the traffic up from entering all at the same point. Just a nice handy little service interchange. Really easy to build, quite cheap as well in terms of, you know, how expensive service interchanges can be. You can switch these junctions out for roundabouts if you want to. No, it's all up to you. Take it in your own direction, see what you think. Play with some of your new sort of compact 4-lane roads. Might also be sort of a fun shout to use here as well if you don't want the major arterial networks. You could also do this one as 4-lane road across the highway if you wanted to. Doesn't have to be the industrial road. Everyone will have their own tastes and preferences, but it gives you a really basic highway connection that's super easy to decorate, and we can see how much industrial traffic is already choosing to come and take this way back into town, which is always exciting, right? This is just going to mean a lot less pressure on our main interchanges and intersections throughout the city. Another good shout for a building here is going to be the road maintenance depot. This works really nicely. Just sort of chilling out by your major highway networks. Okay, of course, it's going to need a power connection and water as well, of course. But I'll worry about that come the detail time lapse. So bring a power line through here. There is our vanilla service interchange. It will do as a job, and it doesn't look too bad, especially once it's decorated as well. So now we've got a new service interchange established. We're bringing traffic into the city another direction. This is a really good point about vanilla. I think a lot of the time people's traffic problems come from the fact that there's just not enough connectivity to the highway for people to get in and out of the city. So having plenty of service interchanges dotted around your highway network will really alleviate the traffic pressure for you. So something to bear in mind if you're having traffic issues. Cool. So the last thing I want to have a look at before we look at detail and time lapse is this this absolute monstrosity. What the hell happened here, Colossal Order? Just drawing it in. no regard for anything, alright? Just awful. Terrible news. So we want to fix this. So we now have access to the rest of the lake, and of course we will have some more builds around here, perhaps a pedestrian area, but the train line does have to flow through here. So it comes over the hill, which I think is a little bit unnecessary. So let's do some testing with level terrain. I want to find out where this bridge comes down. So I'm probably going to cross the bridge over the highway at about this height. That's perfect for me. So we know that that's a good height. So I'm going to leave that there. And then I want to grab the height here where the train line is going to flow over the highway from. And then just compare it to where it comes back down to a more sensible level. So it's this height here, so we can see that it's going to need a little bit of work in order to get it to fit. So let's rip it all out. So now I just want to bring up this layer of terrain until it meets the hill. Probably about there, right? That's going to be good for me. Let's paint all that out. Yeah, just as much as we need. Again, just more terraforming is always better at the start, and then you can always chisel around it once you know your final configurations. And this is good. Let's go ahead and grab that height, and then we'll just slope up now with the slope tool. Make it a little bit more palatable and sort of an easier ascent for the train. Grab our train line, and then we can bring this just on a straight road. have it come through there. That's going to be good enough for me, I think. Again, it's going to be nice to have a train line nearby to the lake as well. Possibly get another train station on here. Also extending our... To be fair, actually, this space right here is probably a good idea for a transport hub build, which I realise isn't something we've really focused on in the Noobs Guide at all yet. There's a little bit of crime over here. There's abandonment in the historical commercial tomb. Take care of that. For graveyards and stuff need sorting out over there. I'll do that off camera. But yes, this would be a good point for a transport hub. We've got an internal train connection here. There's intercity train availability. Bring buses in as well if we want. So probably do a transport hub by the lake. I think that'd be quite nice. Okay, and then let's bring this up. And then just as we come into the hill, this is where I want to sink underground. So we're going to come out like that. Just double check the entry point. Yeah, so it's nice and sort of flat. It goes into the hill rather than sort of down into the earth, if you know what I mean. That can happen sometimes. And then we can sort out our curvature underground. Let's come back out so we meet this one at a relatively happy distance. Seems okay to me. Let's come back onto our straight road tool. Then we want to come back to earth at this point. That's going to be good for me. See, it's not quite how I want it. See how it goes down into the earth? That's not what we want to happen. So now let's prepare the earth over on this side where we know we're going to want to prepare the rail bridge similar to what we've just done. Okay, so we can see that's where the train line is. So let's come underground and delete that. You can press V to get underground quickly, by the way, if you didn't know. I don't think I've covered that in the Noobs Guide before. Then we just want to establish where this is going to flow. Yeah, probably from about here. And then we want to come again just to where the terrain goes down. Then create that tunnel. So it goes into the hill rather than sort of down into the earth. I hope I'm sort of explaining that in a way that makes sense. Then we can come back up now, and we've got our landmass prepared. We know exactly the height that we're going to flow over the highway at. We can delete this over here now. Well, if I can hit the right button, there we go. And then let's go ahead and grab those heights, bring it over to this side of the highway. Let's buy some soil if we need. And then let's just go ahead and tear this out. How much more room do we have within the tile boundary? It comes over this hill as well, doesn't it? So we could even tunnel it through this hill if we wanted to towards the tile boundary edge, but we'll worry about that in a second. And then we want to grab that height where the rail sits at and then just slope up to it from where we're working with. And exactly the same process. You can just bring this across now with a nice happy elevation step. Maybe bring it on a slight curve as we come back down to the other side of the highway. And then about there is going to be good. Then we can re-establish the connection for the cargo lines and intercity trains that come through here as well. So much better, right? I'm not usually a fan of using tunnels. I prefer to see the traffic, but appropriate tunnelage is welcome, you know, such as through a mountain like this. Exactly the same process we did with our little country road vibes over here. You know, rather than letting it flow over the awkward terrain, we just sort of tunneled it through with a little bit of an industrial road, and then it just appears out again over this side. And I hope you agree it makes a difference, right? I'm not a huge fan of tunnels. I do like to see the traffic move, but there's Magneto on his way to the countryside. Cool. So there we go, right? Much more sensible rail connections. And even if these, if you're not playing with 25 tiles or you're on the consoles, all of these processes still apply to making your networks look a little bit better, because especially the early, well, this is a release date map, isn't it? This is Diamond Coast. This came with the base game. So, you know, Colossal Order, we're still learning how to play the game at the same time as us. I've also realised I've forgotten to hook in my cargo trains to this network here, so we'll do that as well. And same process, a little road guideline snap can be helpful here just while you establish your parallel network to go alongside. Bring that one up, and then we can probably get a happy little curve tool there to that road guideline snap point. Same process again down here. We can bring this one out on a parallel line. It was all squashed up against the tile boundary before, but now we have the room. Have that go in there, and we'll let that connect in as well. And then this one has to come in there also. Oh, you okay, train? It's like snapped its neck. Tremendous. Alright. So there we go. We've reworked some of the hideous vanilla connections that were in the release date game. It's kind of crazy to think that this is a release map, right? Diamond Coast. It certainly needs some work doing to it, like the connections we sorted out today. But it is a really nice map. Definitely some terrain work done along this coast here as well, isn't there? I think there is. I think there is. And now it's just a case of drawing out all of these arterial networks. So we'll have a little chat about this before we move into a detailing time-lapse for today. So we can see really obviously here where we were against a 9-tile boundary. This is a great opportunity now to just come in and extend your sort of major arterial frames out into your new boundaries. It's going to help you plan builds a little bit better. We can have this one intersect at this point and then maybe carry on up into the hills. Sort of meander it off into a slightly different direction. And then this one is a cycling road. This can carry on up here now as well. Looks like there's an opportunity for a little curved connection in there. So all of your networks can all just expand out now, and you know it starts to create new shapes where you can squeeze in another little modular build. Something you haven't done before. We've still got many more builds to explore in the Noobs Guide. We've got a lot of factories we haven't used. I'm quite keen to do a car factory build. I haven't really done one of those on the channel before. We do know that we're going very heavily forested over here, so let's use our forest brush. So we did have some people wondering if we're going to add any mods into the Noobs Guide. I don't think I'm going to. Even things like Move It can really significantly change in the game in terms of like piecing buildings together. So we're just going to keep it vanilla. I'm really enjoying this like pure vanilla build, obviously despite forest brush, but I'm not going to sit here for 3 hours placing a pine forest. Same with the prop line tool as well, but it's still basically vanilla. So now we can just create this real sense of countryside that we've been looking to do in this side of the map. You know, these really heavily forested arterial networks give us a proper sense of rural community and sort of rural vibes. And, you know, all roads lead back to Noob Yoke. We're still maintaining that interconnectivity across the city as it grows out now. And these same processes will apply everywhere else as we come in now to do more builds in future episodes. These coastline roads can expand. I'm quite keen to get almost a sort of Malibu beach vibe along here with a little sort of coastal highway road that just hugs the coastline all the way down over here. We've still not done sort of like a cargo port in Noob Yoke. We haven't done a cargo airport either. This is just passenger airport over this side. Oh, let me do this with you all as well. God, this has been doing my head in for months. Finally get rid of that bloody edge against the runways. Let's go ahead. Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you, 25 tiles. Just amazing. And there we go. Tremendous. Cool. For those wondering as well, Noob Yoke's node count is at 58%. I did check it finally. There we go. And we got all these areas. There's another whole bay over here. There are lots more little rural builds out here. So that's what we'll do over the subsequent episodes of Noob Yoke. We will just expand out our networks and cover many different builds that we haven't covered in our kind of Noob Yoke tutorial format. But otherwise, that does feel like a good place for a detailing time-lapse. We're going to decorate up the new networks that we've done today, especially the Windmill stack interchange, get some rocks and trees around here. Perhaps a power line flowing next to it as well is always an appreciated aesthetic. Fencing, repeated tree patterns in the middle. Same things over here, again, just decorate up our highway interchanges, or the service interchange at least. And then with the rail as well, a little bit of forest around this, I think would be most welcome. And it's been a nice little planning episode. We ripped out some awful infrastructure, and I hope you can see the difference it makes even in the bird's eye view, right? Much more important looking now. But otherwise, let's detail up our new network additions, and then we'll be right back. Okay guys, so let's have a detailing review. Around the interchange, we brought in some repeated tree patterns in the open spaces, and then just sort of general, natural, fairly minimalistic tree detailing within these sort of open spaces between the ramps. And it just turned up really nicely. This is such a nice little design. It's just so easy to put together in vanilla, and it looks really cool as well. And a great traffic flow on it as well. Really nice. So really happy to see this in the city. Also brought in a little bit of terraforming detailing around here as well, just so it wasn't all quite as flat on all sides. Just helps it settle in to the landscape a little bit easier. So super happy with this interchange. Gives us a lot more interconnectivity now and so much better than that awful vanilla cloverleaf. Just horrific. So really happy with this. Super cute. Some fences along the slip lanes as well. Where we come down to the highway, whereas as builds develop in these spaces, of course, we can do many more service interchanges and bridges back into across the highway to continue to frame it and factor it into your builds very much like we have done here. You know, it sort of blends in with the city now, doesn't it? It's not just a highway out on its own, but we will still have that, you know, we will have some rural highways. Then down toward the service interchange, we dropped in a fire watchtower. Again, things this side of the interchange probably will be subject to a fair bit of change as different builds come in. But we have orientated some larger service assets against the road, such as the park maintenance building, the road maintenance depot which we placed together, also thrown down a police station and a taxi depot too, alongside expanding the zoning out here just so we could actually see some people sort of move around this interchange so we can see it busy and active in a functioning city. And then we've also dropped in a small warehouse which is set to stone commercial zone goods. And just really happy with this interchange design. They're really simple, they're super effective as well, and just, yeah, I don't know, quite underrated little service interchange this one, I think. Does a nice little job for us. And it looks a little bit different as well, which is always appreciated. Of course, some repeated trees and some fencing through the middle as well really just help tie the detailing and the layers together, so really happy with these sort of general vibes that are over here now. And we're now seeing this really large train infrastructure start to expand across all of New York, as we have this kind of deforested train corridor, which is just left a little bit more green space than usual either side of the network, and then a heavy fence line with the very thick forest on the other side of it. So it does look like it has been deforested to make way for the train line to come through. It's a nice way of giving them a little bit more personality when they travel for such long distances like this. Then of course this will change as we come to build in the area and around the lake and whatnot. But otherwise guys, that is going to do it for today. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, likes, comments and shares below really do help me out. And there are also links down to Patreon and Instant Gaming if you'd like to help support the channel further. It really does mean the world to me. Equally as much if you haven't enjoyed it, then please feel free to leave a dislike as well. Really happy to have 25 tiles in Noob Yoke now, and quite a fun sort of prep and design episode today in preparing interchanges and networks to properly flow into the new 25 tile boundaries. Again, as always, we've got plenty more Noob Yoke episodes to do, and I'm really looking forward to getting stuck into the other side of the main river. You can imagine what that's going to look like once it's got builds littered all over that side, and then we have that kind of river fully encompassed with lights on both of the banks. That should be really cool once it's there, but of course, quite a while away. So I hope you're still enjoying Noob Yoke. We're going to be in this city for a considerable while longer yet, before we come to a new vanilla build. But otherwise, please do hang around for some cinematics, but I will shut up and I will leave it there. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.